Just some brief housekeeping. As you know, we have our exits in the back, but for safety purposes, we also want to note that there's an exit to the left and to the right. So if there's any concerns or issues, or if you have any type of safety issue, please make your way to the exit slowly and carefully. As far as our housekeeping is concerned, we have just an opportunity to make sure that everyone has the chance to speak. We are going to have everyone timed today. We already have quite a list of speaker cards, and just as you know, we are going to be going until 4 o'clock today. There is another opportunity if you so choose not to come up to the microphone today. We do have a court reporter who is taking all oral comments, so it is a public hearing and your comments are going to be put into the official record. But if for some reason you can't stay or if you need to leave, we actually have a comment period outside as well. And we have a Spanish translator there and a Mandarin translator there where you can actually do comments in 3 areas. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but you can do that orally. You can do that through a laptop where you can actually type multiple notes if you'd like. And you can also fill out a comment card. Those comment cards are collected. This is a public hearing and those comments are put into the record. So we just wanted to make sure that you were aware that orally or written, your comments are going to be heard today, and we're very pleased that you're here. So with that, I actually would like to go through these really quickly for you. The multiple ways to comments, as I mentioned. The comment cards, there are comment cards. If you did not receive one at the signing table, we have several for you. There are many comment cards. That you can, we have many boxes that you can submit that as well. I have speaker cards, which will allow you to come. We actually have it timed so that we give everyone a fair chance on how to speak with the microphone. We were anticipating a little larger group today, so we were thinking, usually we have 2 minutes for comment and 3 minutes for Spanish because Spanish takes longer. And as I mentioned, we have a court reporter, and you can speak directly to the reporter. Again, if you, that's being recorded here in this facility, in this room, but also out in the common area as well. You can type up your comments on the laptop that we provided, and I also wanted to give you this website. You can go to the website as well. Please feel free to take your comment cards home, because you can actually, if you thought of something, you can submit them and you can mail them in. So that's why I wanted to make sure you had this address today so that you can actually mail your comment card. And you just saw and met Garrett, so it would be sent to him. I'll have this information up at the end of our presentation so that don't feel like you have to rush in. I'll keep it up on the screen for you so that you have it. So you can actually reach out to Garrett and send it directly to Caltrans in downtown Los Angeles. So with that, what I'd like to do is go invite Yoga Chandran, who is our project manager for CH2 Hill, to come up and he will start our presentation. Once he's completed with that, we will begin our comment period, and we are going to take a couple of breaks during the afternoon because we'll be going for quite some time. But just to let you know, I'll give you a little bit more information on that later. So Yoga, if you don't mind. Oh, I have one item. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. My apologies. I'd like to acknowledge the elected official representatives that we have here in the office and here in the auditorium. And if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind standing, that would be great. We have Jessica Marquez from Supervisor Hilda Solis's office. Okay. I have Vicky Murphy with Senator Carol Liu's office. Jason Poe, Mayor of San Gabriel. Yeah. Oh, hi, thank you for coming. Henry Lowe with Assembly Member Ed Chen. Thank you for coming. Eugene Sun, Mayor of San Marino. Thank you for coming, sir. Kendra Dodds with Hilda Solis's office. Thank you, Kendra, for coming. And Julio Torres with Councilmember Jose Weezer's office. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So thank you with that, and I will now turn that over to
Good morning. I'd like to see many of you here today. As Garrett Damrath indicated, we are here today to listen to your testimony. My role here is as the project manager for the CH Trimble team and the contract to Metro, is to, along with my teammate Deborah Priscillius, to give you a quick overview of what's included in the document. And what you see on the screen is our outline of the presentation today. I'll start out with the community outreach activities, give a brief background on why the study is needed. That leads into the purpose and need statement. Give you a brief overview of all of the alternatives that are being considered on this study. And then Deborah will take over and give you a quick summary of what's included and summary of the key findings from the draft EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, and the Environmental Impact Statement, EIS, and close it from our presentation standpoint what the next steps are. I'll start off with the community outreach. Before I go, I'd like to acknowledge Vincent Gonzalez, who's over here, and Louis Vizcaino. They were leading many of the outreach activities throughout the past 3.5 years, and if you have any questions related to this, you can reach out to them at the end of the presentation and ask them if they can relate to the community outreach. As many of you know, we've been out and about in the study area. We had numerous community meetings. The number of 300 or more is being conducted. That varies in a number of ways. We had open houses, information sessions. We had small group community meetings and also attended neighborhood councils and others. Held over 180 meetings, such meetings in Northeast, East Los Angeles area, and over 150 in San Gabriel Valley. In addition to this, as a study team, we also coordinated with had agency coordination meetings. The agency coordination, there are 2 committees that we interacted with on a regular basis. The Technical Advisory Committee, which comprised of many of the technical members from cities that's located within the study area, and the Stakeholder Outreach Advisory Committee, which also included elected officials and commissioners from the various cities within the study area. We had 18 Technical Advisory Committee meetings and 14 Stakeholder Advisory Committee meetings. In addition to those, the study team and Metro have held numerous briefings with elected officials. There's a long list of names from Congress members, state senators, to state assembly members, Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, Los Angeles City Council members, and as well as many local elected officials. In preparation for the release of the draft document, both Metro and Caltrans issued a joint news release on March 6th, which was the official start date of the public review period. We had a number of legal notices that were published in the local newspapers, and the public comment period is from March 6th through July 6th, which is last about 120 days. Typically for EIR, EIS, the required review period is 45 days. We also had a number of supplemental public noticing. If you visit the SR 710 North webpage on the Metro site, there's a link to the study, and you can find numerous information out there. There was an e-blast that was done as part of the news release to those on the SR 710 North database. We also have joint news releases posted to the study area and also on city websites. Several mailers were sent out to the businesses and households, mostly focused on those that are within or adjacent to the footprint of the alternatives that have been evaluated. There are 4 public hearings planned, one today in East Los Angeles, and there are 3 others are planned. We have one on Tuesday, April 14th, in Pasadena, and then we have one in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, that's on May 6th, and also in City of LA, in the Sereno neighborhood on May 7th. And so you have ample opportunities to provide your comment, and we would like to hear your testimony and comments on the document. By way of background, this is a Measure R funded study. It was initiated 4 years ago with a scoping meeting held throughout the study area. And the primary purpose of the study is to alleviate mobility constraints within the study area, which is the northeast Los Angeles and the western San Gabriel Valley. Following the scoping, based on the feedback we received from the numerous stakeholders within the study area, we evaluated over 100 multimodal alternatives through a 3-step screening process. We screened down to 5 alternatives that is currently being studied further and discussed in the draft environmental document. The draft document is currently circulated, as I said, and we're looking forward to your comments between now from March 6th to July 6th. One point I'd like to make it clear, the draft EIR-EIS does not recommend or select or identify a preferred alternative. And this will be done after we receive all the comments and we have a chance to evaluate all of the feedback and the comments we get, and we'll make that decision or determination based on the facts and information, including consideration to the public comments. The project study area, this study area is to identify where our alternatives are situated, and the shaded map on the screen shows the boundary of the study area. To the east, it's bounded by Interstate 605. To the north, it's Interstate 210. To the south, it's Interstate 10. And to the west, the study area is bounded by State Route 2 and Interstate 5. We want to make it clear that even though this study area is for locations or identification of where the alternatives are, depending on the technical studies, those will be either focused on where the footprint of the alternatives are, or in some cases extend and goes beyond the limits of the study area. And if you review the documents, and you can identify which studies did go beyond or not for respective technical studies. The project purpose for this study, the purpose of the proposed action is to effectively and efficiently accommodate regional and local north-south travel demands in the study area of the western San Gabriel Valley and east-northeast Los Angeles, including the following considerations: improve the efficiency of the existing regional freeway and transit networks, reduce congestion on local arterials adversely affected due to accommodating regional traffic volumes, and minimize environmental impacts related to mobile sources. And the project purpose is derived from the project need, and there's 4 consideration that went into it, and there's a 5th one as also described in the document. The first one, capacity, transportation demand, and safety. The primary need around that is a lack of north-south transportation facility, which leads to overall congestion in the region. And if you review the document, you would find out the lack of the north-south mobility or a facility has caused congestion on the regional freeway system, the freeways adjacent to the study area, and a number of local arterial streets within the study area. The modal interrelationship and system linkages. There are 2 freeways which terminates within the study area, State Route 110 and the Interstate 110. And what this has done is to create traffic that spills over into the local streets and causes congestion within the local streets. Social demands on economic development. State Route 710 is included in the SCAD 2012 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, and also on Metro LRTP. Based on the SCAD study, this is one of the projects that has been used to show conformity in terms of air quality. The environmental factors, the lack of infrastructure improvements since 1950 has created increasing congestion, as primarily due to increasing population, increase in land use, and it's going to continue to grow. Our study indicates that there's going to be a 12% increase in population within the study area. So currently, all the congested freeway is going to get worse if nothing is done. And this is these four are the primary drivers. And there's a fifth element that's discussed in the document. This is, as I said earlier in my introduction, is a Measure R funded study, and the voters of LA County voted to have this study or the project completed, and there's a legislative meeting. An overview of the alternatives. Here are the 5 alternatives that are being studied in the environmental document. No build. And I'm going to get to each of those in a minute. Transportation system management, transportation demand management is known as TSM, TDM. Bus rapid transit, BRT, that includes elements of TSM, TDM. Light rail transit also includes elements of TSM, TDM. And the freeway tunnel alternative, including elements of TSM, TDM. For the freeway tunnel alternative, we looked at 6 variations. As shown on the screen, dual bow operational variation. It includes 3 scenarios: no tolls, and no trucks, and with tolls. And for the single bow variation, it's similar with tolls and no trucks, and also with tolls with express bus. The no-bill alternative provides the baseline against which all of the bill alternatives are compared. It's required for us to evaluate this and show if nothing is done, is there a problem within the study area. This includes all of the planned improvements contained in the 2012 Southern California Association of Governments, SCAGs, RTP through 2035, but it does not include any of the improvements associated with bill alternatives identified within SR 710 non-study area. Give you an overview of the TSM TDM alternatives. We have 4 basic components included as part of the TSM TDM. ITS, called Intelligence Transportation Systems, local street improvements, transit refinement, and active transportation. Excuse me. The ITS includes signal optimization, signal synchronization, and a number of those technology-related activities to increase mobility within the study area. The local street improvements has 17 intersections and 7 street segments, and 3 other improvements which were included at the request of a number of stakeholders which came up during our alternative analysis phase. And the transit refinement is primarily focused on enhancing the existing bus routes. The primary purpose of TSM TDM, and as requested by many of you during the scoping as well as when we are doing the alternative analysis, is to provide a low cost, a low build, or alternative, as it can we do look at the existing system and improve the efficiency, and with that address the congestions and the mobility concerns we have in the study area. Here's pictorially, it shows the 4 alternatives, and I'm not going to go through each of those, and these are all expanded for your information outside on the map viewing area. I hope you'll have a chance to meet with the technical experts who are involved in developing each of the alternatives. The second bill alternative is BRT, the bus rapid transit alternative. This is a high-speed, high-frequency service between East Los Angeles and Pasadena. This is the line that you see. Not working. The line that you see on the map is color-coded to show whether it's an exclusive bus lane, or is it a mixed floor bus lane, or exclusive in one direction. Primarily goes from along Atlantic Boulevard through Huntington Drive into Fair Oaks, between East Los Angeles and Pasadena, and touches a number of activities that is along the way. As I said, it's a 12-mile long corridor with 17 stops to attract ridership. The service is based on a 10-minute headway during peak hours and 20 minutes during off-peak. And we also have some parking restrictions during peak hours to improve the performance of the bus rapid transit. We have added and enhanced with a number of amenities at the stations and signs as a suggestions to attract riders. We also included 2 bus feeder service to connect with the system within the study area. The one that connects to the El Monte bus station and the El Monte bus service itself. And the second connection is to the Metrolink stations at Commerce and Montebello. The preliminary cost estimate for this is $241 million, which is in 2014 dollars, which includes about $102 million comes from the TSM TDM improvements. And I think I forgot to mention that for the TSM TDM, the cost estimate, the preliminary cost estimate is $105 million. The third bill alternative is light rail transit alternatives. It's also between East Los Angeles and Pasadena. This is a 7.5-mile passenger line on a dedicated guideway as an aerial section in the southern 3 miles and a tunnel section for the northern 4.5 miles. Includes about 7 stations. In the tunnels for this light rail transit will be constructed using a pressurized freestyle boring machine, approximate diameter about 20 feet, and will be excavated from the southern end to south of the Valley Boulevard. Similar to the BRT, we have included 2 bus feeder service connecting to both El Monte bus station and the Metrolink stations at Commerce and Montebello. The preliminary cost estimate for this is $2.4 million, includes about $52 million from TSM TDM improvements. And the last bill alternative is the freeway tunnel alternative. It's about 6.3-mile route connecting Interstates 10 and 210. 4.2 miles is boat tunnel, about 0.7 miles is cut and cover, and 1.4 miles is at grade. And on the map, it's color-coded to show the differences between the boat tunnel, which is in purple, the cut and cover is in light blue, and the rest in orange is the surface portion of it. The 2 tunnels, depending on, it's a single board and dual board, they are about approximately 60 feet in diameter. The design of both the freeway alternative is based on safety elements and design guidelines provided by Caltrans for design, and the safety elements is based on guidelines provided by the National Fire Protection Association document. There are ventilation structures provided in each portal, the north and the south. Want to make it clear that there are no intermediate ventilation structures for the freeway tunnel. We do have operations and maintenance building on either side of the north portal and south portal, which will house maintenance folks, staff for 24 hours, 7 days a week. It will also house first responders to respond to any incidents that could potentially happen within the tunnel. The freeway tunnel, similar to the LRT and DRT, includes elements of TSM TDM, and the preliminary cost estimate for the TSM TDM for the single board is $3.15 billion, and the dual board is $5.65 billion, and includes $50 million from TSM TDM elements. This concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm going to invite Deborah Prasilio to go through and describe what's included in the above document.
Thank you, Yoga. And welcome, again, I want to welcome everybody for coming today. And I know this has been a very anticipated presentation. We've been talking about this project with the communities over the last 4 years. We're really excited to be able to bring to you the key findings of the EIR, EIS. We've been promising that for a while, and I know you've been looking forward to it. Real quickly, I wanted to talk about the EIR, EIS contents. It is a very large document. It is 2 volumes. The primary volume is volume 1. It has the bulk of the text of the analysis, and in volume 2 there are appendices that have various technical documents and graphics and tables. So it's important to look at those 2 volumes together. They are available on Caltrans website, as well as there is a link to them through the Metro website. They are available in a variety of libraries throughout the communities, and I know each of the cities also has copies of the documents. So we want to make sure that everybody knew that was very distributed throughout the study area, and you're available also to view it on the internet. There are 7 chapters in the documents that go through many of the topics that Yoga just described, as well as chapter 3 talks about the affected environment and environmental consequences. That's the primary chapter that has the environmental effects of the project, as well as chapter 4, which has specific conclusions regarding compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. We also documented in chapter 5 the various outreach efforts that have been conducted for the project, as well as coordination with state, federal, and local agencies that was conducted through the study. And that is also, volume 2 has appendices and a variety of supporting documentation. We do have a copy or 2 of the 2 volumes up in the map viewing area. People are interested in looking at that. There also is an executive summary that's available for review up there. That is just a real quick go-to to see what the specific impacts are for each topical area. So those are available for folks that want to take a few minutes and go look at that. But we'll be here through the meeting. And that's a lot of those are available at the public libraries. We do have a listing of the public libraries where those are available at the sign-in table if you do not know where they're available, and also the locations are on the Caltrans and Metro websites. These are the topics that are covered in the environmental document. Many of these will be specifically highlighted today. These include land use and community impacts, traffic, visual, cultural, and historical resources, water quality, geology, paleontology, air quality, noise and vibration, biology, and construction impacts, as well as health risk change assessment and climate change. So these are a quick summary of the different topics that are covered in the environmental document. So we are going to go over some of the key findings this morning. The first we're going to talk about is land use growth and community impacts. The general conclusions of the document are that none of the build alternatives are consistent with all policies, objectives, or programs of various general plans. There are some alternatives that are inconsistent with policies and general plans, and we've outlined those in a summary table in the environmental document that identifies which of the build alternatives are compatible or consistent with local general plans. None of the build alternatives are expected to result in unplanned growth, and except for LRT, there are no adverse impacts to community character and cohesion identified. We did go look through, for each of the build alternatives, the communities that are traversed by the alternatives and do an assessment of effects on community character and cohesion. In respect to the LRT, there is a particular impact with some acquisition of some property, commercial property within that East LA community, and we feel that neighborhood serving commercial is quite important, and we feel that loss does have an adverse effect on community character and cohesion. We have found that the build alternatives in total, there's no disproportionate impacts on environmental justice populations, and for the BRT, all the build alternatives except for BRT do not have an effect on Section 4F resources. Section 4F is a regulation as part of the Federal Transportation Act that has special protections for parks, recreation areas, resources listed on or eligible for the National Register. We have one location in Monterey Park, Cascades Park, where there'll be a very minor acquisition required of the median area in the park, which would constitute a de minimis, a Section 4 effect. It's very minor. It's less than 0.02 acres. And some more specifics regarding the community impacts, particularly relocations, acquisitions, and economic impacts. The LRT results in the greatest number of property acquisitions, business relocations, and employee displacements. There's about 58 full property acquisitions, 74 relocations of businesses, and 675 employee displacements. LRT also results in the greatest number of temporary parking losses during construction, approximately 240 spaces. But it also results in the greatest number of future operations and maintenance, or O&M jobs, as far as future jobs associated with the alternative, approximately 1,300 over the 20-year life of the facility. The freeway tunnel results in the greatest number of underground easements. Those are easements that would be required for properties where the tunnel goes under, and that would be approximately 324 underground easements for the single bore version of the freeway tunnel and 563 for the dual bore version of the freeway tunnel. This is a chart that demonstrates the differences between the build alternatives as far as the partial and full acquisitions on the left side, and then the business relocations and employee displacements on the right side. I just did want to note that any relocation and property acquisition would be conducted pursuant to the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970. That is also implemented through Caltrans through several programs, including the Relocation Assistance Program. So those will be following the Uniform Relocation Act, or as it's called, the Uniform Act. There are economic impacts of the project, and those were evaluated in the document. LRT results in the highest future operation and maintenance employment earnings, about $45 million over the life of the facility. One of the prior slides talked about jobs. This talks about how much those jobs would earn. LRT results in the highest annual property tax and sales revenue loss, approximately $51,000 in property tax and $75,000 in sales tax annually. The freeway tunnel dual bore results in the greatest number of future construction jobs. There's approximately 72,000 person years over the construction period. And then the dual bore tunnel also results in the highest future construction employment earnings, about $3.5 billion over the entire construction period. These charts just show for each of the alternatives the operation and maintenance jobs that are estimated as far as during the operation of those build alternatives, as well as the earnings. And this identifies for each of the build alternatives the number of construction jobs and the construction employment earnings that I just summarized. As you can see, that the freeway has the highest number of construction jobs. It's a much more based project. We did a substantial traffic analysis for the DEIR EIS. It has addressed both freeways and intersections. It is a regional analysis as well as a local analysis. And we looked at a number of different study areas to make sure that we captured. We actually looked at 4 different study areas to make sure that we captured both the regional, the sub-regional, and then the local impacts of the project. And we used these as performance measures to gauge the regional travel change along freeway segments and intersections. So we have the EIR EIS study area and the Northeast LA County Freeway Network. We looked at over 600 segments. This is beyond the EIR EIS study area. And then we did look at intersections, local intersections, 156 high-volume locations throughout the study area. And we've focused on the alternative footprints in the affected areas to see which of those intersections we were going to select. As far as our findings for the traffic analysis, all the build alternatives when compared to the future no build, which is in 2035, All bill alternatives would reduce traffic within the study area region and on local streets, depending on the alternative. There would also be an increase in vehicle miles traveled within the study with all alternatives, as well as a decrease in vehicle hours traveled within the study area. We'll also be reducing local street volumes in the north-south direction within the study area with all the build alternatives, as well as reducing cut-through traffic within the study area and increasing transit ridership within the study area. The top table is a summary of the new transit ridership that has been identified in the year 2035 associated with any of the build alternatives. As you can see, the LRT alternative has the highest number, that's about 15,500, while they range between almost 10,000 and 14,000 between the other two build alternatives, TSM, TDM, BRT, and the freeway tunnel. So all of the alternatives would show an increase in new ridership for transit. Additionally, there is an average daily traffic volume that's going to be associated with the freeway tunnel alternative. As you can see, the dual bore freeway tunnel has the largest average daily traffic, about 180,000 vehicles per day, as well as the single bore tunnel is smaller and it would carry about the maximum 93,000 per year. So it's a range of 89 to 93,000. So a different size of ADT depending on the size of the freeway tunnel facility. In general, we want to talk about visual, cultural, and noise impacts. We do have technical folks out in the map viewing area. You may have talked to them already with specifics regarding each of these areas, but generally all build alternatives have varying degrees of visual impacts. There are no adverse effects on historic properties. We did look at a substantial number of properties. We did look at over 2,000 properties as part of our assessment, and we are determined there's no adverse effects on historic properties with any of the build alternatives. Also, all the build alternatives do report noise levels approaching or exceeding noise abatement criteria at varying degrees at varying locations. We have identified noise barriers in particular locations to address areas where noise abatement is identified. We also evaluated air quality. One of the areas that we do need to discuss, as it is a federal project, is federal air quality conformity. As Yoga said, the tunnel is included within the Regional Transportation Plan and Federal Transportation Improvement Plan. Those plans have been found to conform to the Federal Clean Air Act. There has been a determination as part of the Transportation Conformity Working Group, which is a regional group that deals with individual project level conformity, that the TSM, TDM, BRT, and LRT alternatives are not considered projects of air quality concern, and that also additional analysis for conformity would be required if we move forward with the freeway tunnel as a preferred alternative. This table identifies each of the alternatives existing, the no-build and the build alternatives. And the far left is the 2012 existing volume or existing criteria pollutant levels. And you can see that they're much higher than the future no-build and build projects in the 2035 horizon year. So compared to the existing conditions with build out of any of the alternatives, the air quality is anticipated to improve. And then each of the points in the chart describes each of the locations. There is a varying degree of minor increases or decreases for different criteria pollutants with each of the build alternatives. Do you want to talk about construction impacts? Because in particular, with the LRT and the freeway tunnel, they do have substantially longer construction periods than, say, BRT or TSM, TDM. We identified that there would be temporary lane restrictions, road and ramp closures, and detours with the varying alternatives. There will be emergency service travel delays. There are specific locations for both of those first two bullets are identified in the environmental document by build alternative. There will be groundwater dewatering required during construction for both the LRT and the freeway tunnel alternative. We talk about that. We talk about how that's going to be handled and disposed of. There will also be temporary air quality, noise, and vibration effects associated with construction. We've identified appropriate avoidance and minimization measures to address those temporary impacts. There is also the potential for encountering hazardous waste. There are 5 sites that are known hazardous materials or waste sites within the study area, and then we know where those are. We'll be looking at how those could potentially affect any of the build alternatives. Also, we evaluate hauling of the excavated materials from the tunnel boring machines, both for the freeway and the LRT alternatives. We'll be using the freeway and a rail to move that material. For the freeway alternative, the export material, the excavated material would go directly out from the 710 stubs to the 10 or the 210. The LRT station excavation, though, would need to use some local streets to get to the 10 freeway. A health risk assessment was also conducted for the study. The conclusions of the health risk assessment were that under existing conditions, that the cancer risk is estimated to be about 100 in a million near most highways and principal arterials within the study area. And the cancer risk is estimated over 250 in a million near the I-210 east of SR-710 and along the I-5 freeway. There will be a decrease of cancer risk in the study area for all alternatives compared to existing conditions, and that includes the no-build condition. This is primarily due to the reduction in cancer risks within the study areas on local arterials, a higher reduction adjacent to freeways compared to existing conditions, and a decrease is attributed to stringent emission standards, cleaner fleets, improved fuel efficiency, shifting of traffic for each of the build alternatives, and other factors. But that we do recognize that in the future there's estimated to be a substantial decrease into the no-build 2035 condition, and that also that there will be some decreases with the no-build alternatives in various locations. Locations with the greater existing BMT, that's today BMT, will have greater cancer reduction in the future, and the overall reduction of cancer risk considers emissions from the ventilation structures, so our modeling did anticipate, particularly for the freeway and freeway alternatives, that the particulate matter emissions are substantially reduced by scrubbing and air dispersion. There are scrubbing mechanisms incorporated into the ventilation system of the freeway tunnel alternative. We did make specific conclusions regarding unavoidable significant environmental effects pursuant to CEQA. These include paleontological resources, the impacts to paleontological resources. It is a sensitive area. It's a high sensitivity area. That would be a significant unavoidable adverse impact due to the boring activities. We would, to the extent feasible, try to retrieve and curate any fossils that are found. It is a significant effect that we are inconsistent with local plans for the various alternatives. The impacts to study area intersections and freeway segments that cannot be mitigated. We attempted to identify avoidance, minimization, and mitigation measures for impacted intersections and freeway segments, but not all of them can be mitigated. There are views of the LRT alternative from 2 locations within the study area that have been determined to be significant visual impacts, and also they are cumulative significant visual impacts in the area locations. These 2 locations. We did want to talk more about the CEQA and NEPA process, but that's a conclusion of our discussion of the key findings. We will be accepting comments on the draft DEIR during the public review period. As Mary said, we'll be accepting written comments, and those are either you can send those directly to Caltrans, or we'll be receiving them today in any of the public hearings. You can provide verbal comments at the public hearings, either in this venue, or as Mary said, there is a court reporter available out in the comment area that will also take verbal comments. And that we recommend that comments address substantive concerns on the technical analysis provided in the EIR EIS. Those comments are extremely helpful to us. It helps us understand your concerns and how they relate to the technical analysis conducted for the EIR EIS. Our next steps, as we talked about, there will be additional public hearings. We're holding public hearings right now and accepting public comment through June 6th. After June 6th, we'll review and respond to public comments. After that, we will begin developing and preparing supporting data to identify the preferred alternative. That's after we've reviewed the different comments, we've prepared responses. We'll be looking at all of that information and looking at identifying a preferred alternative. Metro staff will then request Metro Board concurrence on a recommended preferred alternative that will be brought to Caltrans. And then we will finalize the environmental document and secure a record of decision on whatever the preferred alternative is determined to be. These are locations where you can find the environmental document, the Caltrans website, as well as the Metro websites. There's also listings of libraries and other great information. We also have different fact sheets that have been put together, some frequently asked questions, a variety of different materials on the Metro website that are very helpful. And there are links to provide comments online to the environmental document on the Caltrans website. Just a little bit of more repeat on how to comment. We want to make sure we get everybody's comments by July 6th. We have comment cards. We have speakers today that will be providing comments. We have court reporters, written comments, website comments, and if you mail comments, please make sure they have Garrett's name on them at the District 7 office. So we have tried to provide an ample opportunity to folks and different avenues for folks to provide comments on the environmental document. So with that concludes the presentation, Mary. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was great. I'd like to introduce 3 additional elected official representatives. Genesis Coronado from Office of Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Ballard. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. We have Teresa Sebastian, who's a council member of the City of Monterey Park. Is she here? Oh, back there, thank you. Nice to see you. And Ron Gold, who is the Assistant City Manager of the City of Monterey Park. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. With that, we actually have some speakers. We'll be getting started. What I will do, we have 2 microphones. We will call you up. It's as people signed in, they got a number, and that's how we address people. So I will call out the first speaker, and then if they would come up to this microphone, and then of course the second speaker will be on deck, and then I'll call the next 2 as well. So our first speaker this afternoon is Dr. Tom Williams.
There you go, Tom.
So Dr. Williams, if you could come up, please. And our next person who will be in line is, I believe I have the correct name, Ron Gold. Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Tom Williams, Sierra Club Transportation Committee, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community, and a couple other organizations. We will be submitting lengthy written comments to the Caltrans. Basic element, will the slides that have been presented this morning, will they be available online soon, like by Monday? Also, are they part of the environmental impact report and subject to comment? questions? Okay, basically, there's a lot of stuff that's in the 26,000 or so pages of the document. A lot of it is not immediately available to the public. So there's some issues regarding informed consent and compliance with secret purposes and needs. Actually, it just says improving the effectiveness and efficiency of the transportation system. But this morning, you also related it to social and economic development. Therefore, where's the social and economic development page? Okay, trucks. Major issue. It actually said this morning that there'd be 180,000 vehicles per day through the tunnel with no trucks. That's an interesting number. That's why I need to know whether this morning's presentation is included as part of the DEIR. The air quality. Nobody has set the emissions requirements for the operations maintenance centers. Alternatives. We're going to be submitting an alternative rather lengthy one. There's also a matter for the final comment in a few minutes. Soft target. This is a classic invitation for a terrorist attack at the north end of the tunnel alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gold. And then after Mr. Gold, Monica Lerma. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Avram Gold, and I'm here as a private person from Pasadena, California. I'm here to comment on the freeway tunnel alternative. I wrote some words down here which I'll be reading, okay? The tunnel boring projects around the world are fraught with unexpected mishaps and setbacks. We know that from tunneling trade journals because they've been published and there are many accounts of them. In light of the Seattle-Washington TBM failure and subsequent rescue operations, I think that the DEIR tunnel alternative has not told the complete and whole story about the feasibility and foreseeable significant environmental impacts should an above-ground TBM repair be necessary. Can Caltrans and Metro guarantee that nothing unexpected would happen during the tunneling process? Well, obviously not. Consequently, it behooves Caltrans and Metro to investigate tunnel boring machine failures and report them as potential significant effects where above-ground mitigation would be necessary. Until that's done, the feasibility of the tunnel alternative is questionable. And just an aside, the whole idea of feasible is a sliding scale, as we know, and it's always a question of feasibility relationship to what. I think that yes, tunnels can be bored given enough time and money. The question is it reasonable? And I think that's a better question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Monica Lerma?
Nope.
Okay, great. Thank you, Monica. And after Monica, Mr. Robert Campbell is next. Go right ahead.
Hello, I am a Alhambra resident, but I'm here representing my elderly parents who reside in East Los Angeles on Mendick and Floral. We are against the Metro Light Rail on Mendick. Mendick is a very walkable community. A lot of residents in East LA and small business owners are not aware about the Metro Light Rail on Mendick. On Mendick, there is a housing authority. A lot of residents, I'm sure do not know about the build. On Mendick and Cesar Chavez, Kid Charter School are building 2 schools, an elementary and a middle school. Mendick also has Belvedere Park. A lot of children are there. They play soccer on a regular basis on the weekends. There's also a school, an elementary school on 1st Street in Mendick, Hamasaki Elementary. Many children, many senior citizens are in that area. Also on Mendick are small businesses that have been affected when the Metro built the gold line on 3rd Street. Instead of increasing businesses, more business for them, a lot of business on 3rd Street has shut down. Some of them are surviving, but barely surviving. A lot of business owners are not here because they're the ones who are running their business. Because we did, a lot of the ones on Mendick, even though the metro was built on 3rd Street, they got affected directly too. So I wish East Los Angeles would be here. I live in Alhambra, I get the posters, I get the flyers. East LA does not. Thank you.
And then next, Martha Hernandez, please.
My name is Clara Solis. I was born and raised in East Los Angeles. East Los Angeles has faced generations of everyone else's unwanted projects dumped in our community. The 710, the 5, the 60, and the 10. All of these freeways run through our community, polluting our air and destroying our health. Once again, our community is being called to bear the burden of everyone else's transportation problems. The problem being the 710 freeway and the de facto freeway that runs from Valley Boulevard up Fremont to the 210 freeway. One of the solutions proposed, the light rail, will place a looming railroad which will tower over our heads on Mendick Avenue. 15 of our precious businesses will be taken for the light rail project. The draft EIR admits that once removed, these businesses will not be replaced. These businesses are counted on by our community. They are within walking distance of hundreds of homes. Employees from Griffith Middle School, Superior Court, Sheriff's Department, Probation, Library, and Centro de Niños say this mall is the only place close by that they can walk to for lunch and coffee. The draft EIR states that local residents rely on these businesses, and the displacement of these 15 businesses will adversely affect the community character and cohesion of East Los Angeles. In fact, 2 of the businesses provide health care services. Caremore's Nifty 50 provides physical therapy and exercise for those over 50 years of age. Children's Dental Funland provides dental services. East Los Angeles is a health professional shortage area under the federal government. Removal of these essential services will hurt and jeopardize the well-being of our community and some of our community's most vulnerable members, namely seniors and children. Additionally, 2 partial acquisitions of property are of public housing property at Nueva Maravilla and Kip Charter School in East LA. Green space is at a premium.
Can I ask you to wrap up? Your time is up. Thank you.
Part of Kip's limited outdoor space for children will be taken. We ask why. Why is this project being proposed? It's not in any existing transportation master plan. It is costly and it is unfunded. It will produce blight in our community. Why is our largely poor, 97% Latino community being handed ugly, noisy, above-ground light rail, while the relatively wealthy, non-environmental justice community of South Pasadena gets a tunnel? We aren't stupid. We realize South Pasadena wants this tunnel because it means the 710 will never go through their cities. But why does our community of East Los Angeles have to be everybody else's dumping ground?
Thank you. No? John Benarski? Is John here? Yep. And then after John, Jeffrey Hernandez. Could you be ready? Thank you. Go right ahead, John.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Metro and Caltrans for developing a document and a process that has been extremely thorough and transparent and open to the public for a number of years for all of us to participate in. My wife and I live in Altadena, California. It's part of unincorporated Los Angeles County. And as such, we feel that many times we're kind of left out of the discussion, but each of us travel through the 710 Gap corridor each day on our way to work, and we recognize that the dual bore tunnel is really the only reasonable way to resolve the transportation issues that we have. I'm a registered civil engineer, have been I've worked in heavy civil construction for the last 30 years, for the last 10 years in tunnel design and construction, and I can speak with quite a lot of surety that while tunneling is a complex operation, the size of the tunnels that we're talking about for the dual bore tunnels are practical and feasible. You only have to look through different parts of the world, in Europe, Asia, as was mentioned by a previous presenter, and even here in the United States where large diameter tunnels are being successfully constructed. The Port of Miami just completed a very large transportation tunnel underneath the port. Sure, people throw out comments about what's going on in Seattle. I'm sure that the engineers and the contractors will study that issue, and they will resolve that issue well in advance of these tunnels being constructed in Southern California. People make comments about the Big Dig project, and that's an example of how this will be a failure too. That was a very complex project. At the time that project was completed, it was the most complex infrastructure project in the United States. The 710 dual bore tunnels will not be anywhere near that complex. We're crossing a fault with these tunnels. That type of work has been done before. I have worked on tunnels that have gone across earthquake faults. There's groundwater. We can handle all of those issues with modern technology. You can see the purple line is now being pushed through to the west side. 25 years ago, that technology was not there, was not available. Those tunnels did not move forward. They are now. We have the technology, and these tunnels should be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez, and then if I may ask Gilbert Hernandez to be next. Thank you. Go right ahead.
My name is Jeffrey Hernandez. I am I'm a faculty member here at East LA College. Welcome to our college. Unfortunately, this is happening at the end of spring break, so it shut down or relocate. We consider the impact on these small businesses that serve the community on Atlantic Boulevard when they no longer can have people park on Atlantic Boulevard to come see it, because now there's a dedicated bus route. Clearly, the bus transit alternative is a negative impact that should not be shouldered by the community. The light rail transit has even more harm. You're talking about a visual blight. None of us here would like to live with that over our homes. None of us. We all know that. Honestly, I find it unconscionable that we even have to discuss it. It seems so obvious that it is inappropriate. Clearly, the debate here is really about the tunnel, and I understand that. But
to wrap your comments up, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Because, I agree with a lot of the other speakers. It's going to take away a lot of the businesses there. A lot of those businesses help us a lot. It's a very nice area to be in. I don't understand why if a rail's going to be built there, why can't there be a tunnel going under there too? I mean, why do we have to get the rail and not the tunnel? Why not a tunnel also? I don't understand why that can't happen. I just want to say also that when I was out there, I was noticing that the TDM alternative does not include my area as far as traffic, how it's going to affect the traffic in my area. I would like that to be next time when these meetings happen, if you guys can include how traffic is going to affect my area. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Osuna? Danny Osuna? Okay. Mr. Joe Kano, and then after Joe would be Carol Jones.
I'd like to speak on the outreach to minority communities. I believe the Metro and Caltrans, the outreach to El Sereno, and as you can see, the outreach to Boyle Heights, East LA, has been poor and inadequate. In 2012, Councilman Jose Huizar had before us then project director Doug Faley to a meeting in El Sereno because we had been left out. And at that meeting, Doug Faley, it was pointed out to him that they said they're going to have robust outreach to minority communities. Los Angeles was checked off, but they had never gone to El Sereno and asked any of that minority community to participate or engage in any input over this project. So I believe there is a case for environmental racism against Caltrans and Metro under the National Environmental Protection Act. You are in violation, and I believe that will be borne out if taken to court.
Thank you. Mrs. Jones? Martha? Yamika? Are you Martha?
I'm Yolanda.
Oh, you're Yolanda. Okay, please come up, Yolanda. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I too have to echo some of the comments that were said here today. Metro's corporate culture and public outreach efforts to date are contradictory to its request for public comments and community input. For example, today, the signage outside, not one sign indicates I-710, yet that's what your flyer says. So people from outside this area were complaining. I could see them circling. I'm trying to yell out to them. I'm not certain this was unintentional. Your flyer indicates that questions can be asked and responded to in the map view area. My question could not be responded to, and unfortunately, the area, East LA area, that's going to be most impacted by visual impacts and by the taking of businesses had no corresponding information put out there. So I see a demonstrated lack of intent to expand the knowledge base of the community, specifically the East LA community. As the Maravilla Community Advisory Chair, I invited Metro to come and speak for the express purpose of informing the East LA residents and businesses over the last 2 years. On 2 occasions, questions were asked if residences or businesses would be taken. The answer was no. The EIR states 15 businesses will be targeted. The person at the podium prior to this public comment segment just brushed over the visual impacts, and I think she said compound visual impacts in quotation marks, all of which impact us. This is just a recipe for blight, and it was very disrespectful. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a name here. It's just a last name. G. Valided? Gloria? And then I have another speaker card with Trish Gossett. And it has 2 names. So we'd have Trish come up, and then after that, Wayna Cato. So Gloria, please join us at the microphone. Thank you.
I have my hand up because I have a smashed finger and I'm trying to keep the blood from going to it. I'm Gloria Valladolid and I live in Alhambra. The EIR indicates an equal air quality figure for all the alternatives. I could not find where the EIR indicates different levels of air quality for different areas in the Los Angeles basin. The section on setting for the environment identifies topography and location as an important determinant of air quality. It identifies the setting as the Los Angeles basin, bordered by the ocean on one side and surrounded by mountains on the remaining borders. I had to go to the South Coast Air Quality Management District to find a map that shows the basin with concentric arches to demonstrate the effect of the southwest ocean breezes. The concentric arches show that as the ocean breeze travels northeast, it sweeps the Los Angeles smog in increasingly more contaminated arches as the mountains keep the smog concentrated in the San Gabriel Valley and a notch worse in the San Bernardino and Riverside areas. By the way, the EIR did not mention the concentration of pollutants in my area. If you build the toll tunnel in Alhambra, the EIR says we will get additional traffic from the 5 and the 605 that will switch to our new route. In that case, the air quality will necessarily be worse because you will be providing a route for trucks which run on diesel that will be spewing unscrubbable, nauseous fumes.
Could you please wrap up your comments, please? Thank you.
That will immediately affect our neighborhoods without having the benefit of mixing the ambient air through a great distance, as now happens with the 405, the 110, and the 5 before it gets to us. Keep the toll tunnel on paper.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Trish Gossett to come up. I'm sorry. Haslam? Right. And then also Lucy Barantes is next. Thank you. Yes. Go ahead, Warren. Thank you.
I'm Warren Hauser. I've been a 50-year resident of Pasadena, and I'm representing myself, no other group. The real issue here, I think, is what is the objective of Metro and Caltrans? We want to get traffic to move from Valley Boulevard to Green Street. We're talking about constructing a rail line. We're talking about digging a tunnel. There's a lot of self-interest associated with jobs and the ego that goes with it. Tunnel technology is one of the worst technologies in terms of really being successfully completing projects. You've got a very good program spelled out in the EIR called TSM-TDM, very carefully spelling out how to remove obstacles from Valley Boulevard to Green Street. My suggestion is cut all the baloney, put in the TDM program, get started on it right now. Within a year or so, we'll have a much better flow of traffic through that corridor.
Okay, thank you very much. Lucy Barantes, and thank you. Is Lucy here?
Hello, and thank you for allowing me the chance to voice my opinion. I'm a resident of Alhambra, and I'm really opposed to the concept of a tunnel for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a multi-billion project with great complexity, and we can look at any other large-scale, complex construction project, and we always see that these projects encounter numerous problems and cost overlays. Furthermore, the financial aspect of this is a combination of a public-private partnership. And more often than not, within these financial arrangements, what winds up occurring is that the private end of the partnership always makes their money, and the public end, regardless of what the cost overrun is liable for the payment and the responsibility of that. With all these billions of dollars, what we're trying to do is alleviate congestion and improve air quality. We had at one point a very sophisticated light rail system in the city of Los Angeles. And through the greed and short-sightedness of our elected representatives, we dismantled that entirely in favor of freeways. And what's resulted in that is continued congestion and increased pollution. We need to start working on solutions that encourage the culture to wean itself off of heavy automobile traffic. No matter what we build in the San Gabriel Valley, we're always going to get impacted by air congestion, air pollution, just because of the general geography. The winds blow in from the ocean. All of the pollution from Santa Monica and West LA gets funneled into the San Gabriel Valley. It doesn't matter what you build, there's always going to be pollution blowing in, and the foothills trap it. So the solution has to be to encourage and use our money get people out of cars. We live in an area with over 300 days of sunshine, and yet there are other cities that are cold and rainy like Portland, and more people ride bicycles.
Could you wrap up your comments, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I feel that we should use our money for anything other than the tunnel.
Thank you. I'd like to ask if Trish Gossett or Wayne Akito has come back into the... And then next would be Alex Dillon. Okay, we'll move on.
Joanne Knuckles, speaking for the No 710 Action Committee. I'd like to bring up the fact that there had previously been planned a meeting about the trucking issue, September of 2012, that was canceled. And this has been one of the main issues of contention and which people are looking for information about since the start of this whole process. And I feel it was totally inadequate to cancel this meeting instead of having a public airing of the issue where we can get information and then ask questions. Also, it's unfortunate that the cost-benefit analysis that had been promised at the time that the EIR came out has not been made available. It's like they're trying to hide the ball. And any of these alternatives that you've proposed are lacking any cost information and what those cost estimates are based on so that people can critique them and figure out if it's worth it to spend the money on these issues. So that's definitely an inadequate dissemination of information that is sorely needed. And I think the sooner you get that out, it'll be better for the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Helgeson, Richard Helgeson. You can tilt that up. You just push it up.
Is it on?
Yes, you're on. You're fine.
Sorry, I feel like a one-armed paper hanger here.
Yeah.
I'd be able to read you the CEQA regulation, but I'm kind of at a loss. I broke my hand in Australia. Anyway, wanted to comment.
I'm going to ask him to give you, he's just going to help you with that for a second. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Since this is the initial meeting, I wanted to say something about the volume of this particular EIR. Now, my background is I was with the LA City Attorney's Office for 33 years, and then I was general counsel of the Southern California Public Power Authority. I was general counsel of the Port of Los Angeles. I was counsel of the Alameda Corridor Transportation Authority, which had an extensive EIR, not as voluminous as this. And I was counsel to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. So I have more than 30 years experience dealing with the legal requirements of EIRs. And this EIR of 26,000 pages for a project that spans only 4.5 miles is just too voluminous. I've gone through it in parts, and in some ways it's confusing. Sometimes the data appears to be inconsistent in one part with another. In some places I think it's just unintelligible. But the size of the document makes it very, very difficult for the public to provide an intelligent and meaningful comment on this. Now, if you look at the CEQA regulations and the CEQA guidelines in Title 14 are part of the state law of California. It's section 15141 of the CEQA guidelines. It says that for most EIRs, 150 pages is recommended. But for those that have extensive analysis and deal with complicated subject matters, 300 pages is the recommended length. Now, I don't know how many times 26,000 pages is from that. But I can understand if you have 5 different alternatives, maybe you could devote 300 pages to each one. That would be 1,500 pages. And even if it's doubly complicated, you have 3,000 pages. But to spend 26,000 pages on an EIR and spend $40 million doing that, I think is kind of irresponsible. I don't know, you can respond to this comment, but I just don't, I think it's a little bit excessive. And to me, I know there's been prior litigation on the SR 710.
May I ask you to wrap up your comments, please?
And it just seems to me to be irresponsible to have that voluminous in the EIR for public comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to also note that the tunnel, I don't think, can possibly be built without public-private partnership that requires the imposition of tolls. We believe, we've done some analysis, that we don't believe that the tolls will be sufficiently low to attract sufficient traffic to really make them meaningful.
Could I ask you to wrap up your comments, please?
Yes. For all of these reasons, the City of South Pasadena urges that the Caltrans and Metro fund transportation solutions that provide a much better bang for our buck. And with respect to cost efficiency, I would also note we are still awaiting the release of the cost-benefit analysis. We believe a 120-day comment period is necessary to comment upon the totality of the draft environmental impact report and the cost-benefit analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to ask Al Diaz to come up to the microphone, please.
Against the 710 tunnel. Despite what Alhambra City Council would have you believe, everyone in our city is not for the tunnel. Many of us believe it's an antiquated, irresponsible, last-century idea in a world that's changed dramatically since the 1950s, when freeways were built with no regard for quality of neighborhoods or human health. The tunnel will have no exits along the way, so people in Alhambra, South Pasadena, and Pasadena can't get off except at either end of the tunnel. The tunnel, which is almost certain to have a toll, will divert some 60,000 drivers a day onto surface streets because they don't want to pay the toll. Doesn't sound like that's going to alleviate traffic very much in Alhambra anyway. At Metro's own information meeting, March 12th, the Caltrans Metro consultant said there'd be little to no improvement to air pollution if the tunnel is built. Mr. Placido had asked him that question directly, and that's what he said. In fact, the tunnel would increase emissions, which is shown on the EIR's Table 4.8, if you want to take a look at that. According to Table 4.9, in the EIR, only 7 to 13% of all drivers in the study area will save 2.5 minutes if the tunnel is built. That means 87 to 95% of San Gabriel area traffic will barely benefit at all. Are we so selfish we'd rather save a few minutes than forgo the time, cost, and pollution this tunnel project will bring? The EIR's time estimate to build this tunnel is 5 years, even though earlier estimates on their site said 10 years. This is the longest tunnel of its type to be built, longer than Boston's, longer than Seattle's, both of which have cost and time overruns. Do you really believe it's only going to take 5 years? I don't. What am I for? A multi-mode, low-build alternative. It's a system of transportation improvements that upgrades city surface streets, enhances existing freeways, and encourages coordinated linkage between different travel modes, automobiles, light rail, buses, shuttles, and bicycles. Please consider the 6th alternative and get the 710 tunnel option off the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right there.
Oh, okay, there you go. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Who am I supposed to be speaking to, you? Or
Yes.
just people?
Well, no, my name's Mary McCormick. I'm the facilitator, and as you speak, our court reporter is putting your comments on the record.
Okay. Hi, folks. My name is Ron Wakai. I am a business person, property owner, of East Los Angeles. My family's been in East Los Angeles for 3 generations since the 1920s. My father was born on Mendick Avenue, where I currently own a shopping center, 131 South Mendick to 255 South Mendick. I've spent a better part of my adult life since the mid-90s designing and building that shopping center, which I now own and manage with my brother, Brad. I want to make a couple comments. One is on the deceptive advertising of the MTA. When this 710 North expansion project happened, at no time in any of their literature, when they invited anybody to the meetings, it was always the 710 North expansion project. They never mentioned the light rail component, they never mentioned the bus component. Nothing was ever said about any of those options. So many people did not go to the meetings because they didn't realize that a 710 North freeway project would actually impact the streets of East LA through a light rail or bus system. So that was deceptive. Because there was no mention of anything in their advertising or even at their meetings until later on. Secondly, when the LRT option was introduced, by the way, I mentioned this in prior hearings, but I'll put it on the record. There was no public outreach in East Los Angeles for a significant period of time until we as the business owners found out about a meeting they were having in Monterey Park and we crashed the meeting, which I thought was incredibly deceptive and unfair. When they did start anemic marketing efforts in East Los Angeles, it was very targeted, and it was meant to target the people, in my opinion, that didn't have a real stake in it and that weren't going to make waves. They talked to the people, the groups that were isolated, that they could control, but they did not want to have wide-scale, I shouldn't imply intent. It seems like they didn't want to have the people that were really stakeholders. I was on the Gold Line Committee. I am a property owner on Mendick Avenue with the light rail right in front of me. I am intimately involved in East LA, in the political affairs and the business affairs. I didn't know about this at all. So if I didn't know about this, I was either sleeping, which I wasn't, or they were not trying to inform the people that needed to be informed. When the LRT option was introduced, it was introduced as the only option. Sorry, the engineer said we can't change it, which I find that very difficult to believe, that they're going to put they give us one light rail option with no community input. Absolutely zero community input. They put someone on the LRT committee named John Walker, who we don't even know, no disrespect to the man, but he's supposed to be our representative in East LA, and nobody knows who he is. He's some bureaucrat from Public Works, and that's our representative in East LA.
I'd like you to ask if you could wrap up your comments, please.
Sure. Third, my shopping center is going to be taken. I've asked point blank, many people have asked at these meetings, prior to this meeting, is any property going to be taken? They said no. They are lying, because per the MTA document, which I'll submit in the record, says required property takings for the LRT alternative, and it lists all the addresses in my shopping center. They straight out lied to me and said no property will be taken, and now they're going to take my shopping center, which is my legacy, which is my family, with no prior notice. That is patently unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Kevin Osobilo up, please. And also Trish Gossett would be next. Thank you. Is this Kevin?
Yes.
Thank Kevin.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Acabillo, the planning deputy here on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, 14th District, Councilmember Jose Huizar. While Councilmember Huizar is pleased that the options presented in the draft EIR no longer consider a surface freeway option, which is consistent with the City of Los Angeles 2012 resolution, he is vehemently opposed to any tunnel option whatsoever, and certainly doesn't see anything in this draft EIR that would make him think otherwise. Our office opposes it. The plan for an underground freeway is based on antiquated transportation logic. Today, we are faced with different and much more challenging energy, climate, and quality of life realities in numerous cities and neighborhoods, and the freeway option falls way short of meeting those challenges. While we think much is lacking from this EIR, including a very critical cost-benefit analysis, our office will comment on it in more detail at a later date. Today is about letting the affected communities and residents have their say. We do encourage CD14 residents and others to come to later meetings, especially the one being held in El Sereno on Thursday, May 7th, 2015, at the Los Angeles Christian Presbyterian Church at 2241 Northeastern Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Trish Gossett. And Trish, you had signed in earlier, so I have your early speaker card.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. No problem.
I was out doing outreach in the foyer with my 5 boxes of EIR documents. We have a representation of the scope of the document, the draft EIR, that North 710 study out in the lobby. And it's huge. Anyway, point made. I was out there doing outreach and it was very revealing. First of all, I'd like to know if there's anyone here from the public that had a hell of a time finding this place today. Because I'll tell you something, I can't help but wonder if choosing East LA College was not designed. It wasn't designed to be very confusing and obfuscating. And, you know, for me, I think it would have been easier to get into the middle of a Rubik's Cube. The signs were misleading. I believe they should say, in a campus this large, they should actually tell what the public meeting is about. Because it's not like you're at a high school public meeting, you know, where the campus is quite small. This is a fairly sized campus, and it would have been nice to have better directions that pointed you in the right direction. And there was absolutely no parking directions whatsoever, other than what that was on the website. And that's not been typical at Metro, you know, outreach meetings. So anyway, that's my big complaint for the day. I'm happy to report that I was able to do some damage control on some of the public members out there that were looking at the tunnel alternative as being the viable alternative that or should be chosen based upon the information that they were given at the desk out there that there would be no tolls in the dual bore tunnel. And I was beside myself, as you can imagine, that people representing Metro are lying to the public and saying that tolls are not part of the equation when it comes to the dual bore tunnel, because we all know better.
May I ask you to wrap up your comments, please?
I think that's about it, but thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.